Chapter 7. Liberating Your Wounded Inner Child and Redoing Toxic Shame Scenes. Probably I, too, would have remained trapped by this compulsion to protect the parents, had I not come in contact with the child within me who appeared late in my life, wanting to tell me her secret. Now I was standing at an open door filled with an adult's fear of the darkness. But I could not close the door and leave the child alone until my death. I made a decision that was to change my life profoundly. To put my trust in this nearly autistic being who had survived the isolation of decades. Alice Miller, Pictures of Childhood. Bradshaw on The Family describes 3 distinct phases of my own shame reduction and externalization process. Figure 7-1 gives you a visual picture of these phases. The first phase is the recovery phase. Through the group's support and mirroring love, I recovered my own sense of worth. I risked coming out of hiding and showing my shame-based self. As I saw myself reflected in the non-shaming eyes of others, I felt good about myself. I reconnected with myself. I was no longer completely alone and beside myself. The group and significant others restored my sense of having an interpersonal bond. The recovery process is a first-order change. What that means is that I changed one kind of behavior for another kind of behavior within a given way of behaving. I quit drinking and isolating. I shared my experiences, strength, and hope. I started talking and sharing my feelings. I started feeling my feelings again. I shifted my dependency to the new family I had discovered. There was still a dependent and shame-based child within me who turned the new group into my parents' safeguarding security. My shame was reduced, but still active. This was evidenced by the fact that I was still compulsive and having trouble with intimacy. I chose women who I felt needed me, confusing love with pity. I set up rescuing-type relationships in which others became dependent on me and saw me as all-powerful. I started working 12-hour days, including Saturday. I smoked more and started eating lots of sugar. Indeed, I had stopped a life-threatening disease called alcoholism. I had reduced my shame. I felt better about myself, but I was still compulsive and driven. I was not yet free. Second-order change. In order to reduce the core of my shame and stop being compulsive, I needed a second-order change. I needed to grieve the pain of my abandonment. This is the pathway to second-order change. It involves going back and resolving the unresolved issues in my family of origin. In order to get free, I had to do my family of origin work. I still needed to grow up and truly leave home. Fritz Perls once said, "The goal of life is to move from environmental support to self-support. The goal of life is to achieve independence. Undependence is grounded in a healthy sense of shame. We are responsible for our own lives." The philosopher Gurdjieff is said to have suggested that until we resolve our source relationships, we are never really in another relationship. Leaving home means breaking our source relationships. And since we carry much of our shame as a result of those relationships, leaving home is a powerful way of reducing shame. Leaving home. What does leaving home involve? How do we do it? Leaving home is the second phase of the journey to wholeness. I call it the uncovery phase. It involves making contact with the hurt and lonely inner child who was abandoned long ago. This child is a metaphor for that part of us that houses our blocked emotional energy. This energy is especially blocked when we have experienced severe abuse. In order to reconnect with the wounded and hurt child, we have to go back and re-experience the emotions that were blocked. For many of us, the only way to cure our compulsivity is to go back and re-experience the emotions. The blocked emotions must be re-experienced as they first occurred. The unmet and unresolved dependency needs must be re-educated with new lessons and corrective experiences. Our lost childhood must be grieved. Our compulsivities are the result of old blocked feelings, our unresolved grief, being acted out over and over again. We either work these feelings out by re-experiencing them, or we act them out in our compulsivities. We can also act them in as depression or suicide, or project them onto others as interpersonal strategies for transferring shame. We must leave home and become our own person in order to cure our compulsivities. Even though I was in recovery, I had never left home. I had never uncovered the sources and setup for my toxic shame. I had never done the original pain-feeling work. I had never dealt with my family of origin. Original